We have seen how our modern way of life is not sustainable. In order to change the direction we are heading, we need to understand how we got here in the first place. How did the human species become such a destructive presence on the planet? How did we get here?
The primary problem with Western civilization is that it creates and perpetuates a radical separation between the human world and the natural world. That we've given all the rights to the human and no rights to the natural world. We think we're behaving very rationally, that we're on this kind of a logical economic course, but actually we're heading toward our destruction, and the only way to explain it is that we've been locked into a kind of mythic entrancement, a worldview that's become dysfunctional and therefore destructive.
Indigenous people would call this trance the dream of the modern world. This dream could also be called our worldview or our cultural story. A cultural story doesn't seem like a story at all. It seems to be just the way it is. Like glasses we've worn so long we don't even know we're looking through them anymore. It is held in place and reinforced by a whole set of unexamined assumptions. For example, people assume that polluting the environment is an inevitable byproduct of progress, or that economic growth will necessarily leave some people behind. All of the crises we face today could be seen as the unintended results of the unexamined assumptions that permeate our cultural story, as well as our own thinking and behaviors. Let's look at some of those unexamined assumptions.
One way to characterize the cosmology that really is at work in our culture is this, that the natural world, the Earth, is there for us to satisfy our needs and desires, whatever they might be. So we want to make things, we use the Earth, we make things. We think of it as something like a lumber yard. In fact, we use the word resource. So the Earth is filled with resources that are there for us to use as we see fit. Now, that orientation actually is not that bad so long as humans are not that powerful. But suddenly, when we become so massively present, that orientation turns out to be completely pathological.
We usually don't think about the true cost of the products we buy. Our consumer society is built on the assumption that the price we pay for something reflects the real costs of making it. According to Annie Leonard in The Story of Stuff, maybe not.
I was walking to work and I wanted to listen to the news. I found this cute little green radio for $4.99. I was standing there in line to buy this thing and I was thinking, how could $4.99 possibly capture the cost of making this radio and getting it into my hands? The metal was probably mined in South Africa. The petroleum was probably drilled in Iraq. The plastics were probably produced in China. And maybe the whole thing was assembled in Mexico. $4.99 wouldn't even pay the rent for the shelf space it occupied until I came along, let alone part of the staff guy's salary who helped me pick it out, or the multiple ocean cruises and truck rides pieces of this radio went on. That's how I realized I didn't pay for the radio. So who did pay? Well, these people paid with the loss of their natural resource space. These people paid with the loss of their clean air, with increasing asthma and cancer rates. All along this system, people pitched in so I could get this radio for $4.99.
Many people assume that we can create a healthy society by concentrating solely on our success as individuals.
We are not just individuals. We are part of a society, a worldwide society. We're interdependent, and that interdependence flows at many levels. It's spiritual, it is psychological, it is economic. The notion that we can exist and prosper just individually, based purely on what we do and what we earn, is a rather new notion in history, and it doesn't work.
Another prevalent assumption is that racism is primarily an expression of personal prejudice and the way individuals treat each other. The effects of institutionalized racism are harder to see and to change.
Racism has a cost to every human being on this planet. Racism has dehumanized all of us. We are not taught how it was set up, how it came into being, how the very fact that we have something called race means that we are ranking people and that we are giving white people more value than everyone else. Until we understand the depth of that, it's going to be hard to undo racism. It's going to be hard to change. What we try to do is change people that aren't making it in the system, rather than changing the systems that make sure that some people don't make it.
We don't just have unexamined assumptions about how we relate to the planet. We have underlying assumptions that we haven't examined about how we relate to each other. We have a society that believes that we have throwaway resources, throwaway species, and throwaway people. The same mindset that says, I can ball up this can and throw it away. The same mindset says, I can ball up this child and throw that child into a prison forever for a mistake that child made, similar to a mistake my child might be making with drugs or whatever. That's the core mindset.
When you say you're going to throw something away, where's away? There's no such thing. And where away actually is social justice issues and environmental justice issues. Every plastic bag, plastic cup, plastic to-go container, that is the petroleum complex in Africa, Ecuador, Colombia, Alaska, you name it. Every paper bag, paper plate, paper napkin, that is a forest. Every thing that is called waste or disposable is the ways in which we are saying that it is acceptable to throw our planet and its people away. Disposables are one of the huge magnifiers of how we've lost our connection to the sacred. I am so fiercely passionate about it because I will know in my heart that as long as we are trashing the planet and trashing each other, a healthy and holistic and healed world is not possible. We cannot have peace on the earth unless we also have peace with the earth.
The dream of the modern world is constructed almost entirely out of assumptions that have simply been accepted for generations and are now profoundly embedded in our institutions and in our own thinking and behavior. Questioning these assumptions and the cultural story that perpetuates them is a powerful way to begin to wake up from our collective trance.